would welcome that right now.
No, I don't.
Yeah, my daughter turned 17 last week, so we went away this weekend. So that was nice. And now my son turns 15.
Yeah,
And we're supposed to go away.
top notch.
We have a window of Emily's back window.
Record on this computer,
About a
right?
year and a half ago.
Amanda?
You can't tell that she can have
Record on this
kids
computer,
all
right?
the
That's what I thought.
Recording in progress.
Time is now 7 p.m. and this is City Council regular meeting for Monday, November 6th. If I can get everybody to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and silence your cell phones. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Hogan, we take the roll call.
Councilmember Burke.
Here.
Councilmember Rounds.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Holland.
Present.
Councilmember Dowdy.
Here.
Councilmember Hall.
Here.
Councilmember Alderman.
Here.
The mayor is not available to be here tonight. I think he will be zooming in here at some point for his mayor address or mayor info. Is that what he's doing? His report.
He was, yeah, he got called up to Seattle, so
Okay.
he said he would try to zoom in for the meeting.
Okay. Move on to citizen communications for items not on the agenda. And I have John Kenwisher. Thank you. You can come up and state whatever name you would like to use.
My name is John Kenwisher. I live here in Woodland. I love this town. I've given you all a page 20 from the hearing examiner's report, final copy for the apartment complex on Lewis River Road. I have a lot of problems with that. How many of you ever read this 30-page report? Dated June 29th. That's what I thought. Okay. Let me spell it out for you. Several weeks ago, the developer for the proposed apartment complex on Lewis River Road presented an alternative plan, which was to develop the site with houses instead of apartments. You remember that? Okay. I see there's a sign up on that piece of ground down there. Coming soon, 252 apartments. What I want to know, did you guys ever discuss that proposal? And I expect when I get done, then I want to hear a response. Because I'll tell you why. And I'm going to lay it out for you. If you had decided to go that way, you wouldn't have any of the problems that I'm going to lay out for you. You wouldn't have any parking problems. Plus, think about this. 90 houses in that area. Maybe 200 cars, right? So, you got 252 apartments. How many cars do you think it's going to be in 252 apartments? Probably 2 cars an apartment, right? So that's 300 more cars on Lewis River Road. We already have a huge traffic problem in this area. Why would you want to do that? Okay. That's just one of the problems. I know there was pushback on lot sizes, but there's many problems which I'm going to go to. So I already said 500 cars. The housing project would probably have 200. Okay? So, if you go to that sheet that I gave you, the sheet 10, it said they're going to provide 476 parking places. Okay? But if you go to the very bottom, down here in D, 48 of them are going to be electric hookups. I don't know about you, but how many people do you know that have electric cars in apartment houses? I can't afford one. So how are they going to afford one? Think about it. I know it's the law, but that takes 48 away from this 470. Plus, they're going to put some spaces in for the park that are not supposed to be used for that. So there's more. So you're coming down to 400 spaces. Now, if you got 500 cars, where's that other 100 cars going to go? Okay, that's the next problem. So if you've been down 5th Street and you've been down over here by the Promise Church, there's the apartment complexes on both streets. They have on-street parking because there's no houses along either one of them areas. Where are you going to go? Over here. There's no on-street parking on 503. There's no on-street parking on the other 2 streets because there's not even a shoulder on the street. Plus, there's no sidewalk. You have to go 4 or 5 blocks up that street to get on-street parking in both of them. So you're talking 100 cars, okay? So you got First Street, and you got this other little street over here. Let me find it. So Gun Club and Insel don't even have a shoulder.
Coming up on about a minute left of
Okay.
5-minute timeline here.
Okay. So what I'm getting at is it's going to be real dangerous. You got no sidewalks. You're going to have people going up across, parking as far away, 4 or 5 blocks away. And if you go to down here where it says in C, the applicant is not required to install a marked crosswalk to facilitate pedestrians crossing Lewis River Road. What are you going to do? This is not a city street. This is a state highway. You're going to tell people to cross I-5 out here because that's what it's like in the summer. I'm done.
Thank you.
Can I respond to that?
Mr. Goddard, can you respond to some of that? And then I think that deserves some of the response from us up here.
Sure. So the answer to the first question is that the council did not hear this. This is a development that was a site plan which is reviewed and approved by staff, and staff determines whether or not it meets the city code, and so staff did issue that decision based upon the fact that the design does meet the city code. The other issue about parking, that they did exceed the minimum city code, and our code is specifically designed to lay out the minimums, and we cannot arbitrarily assign extra something beyond the code requires, because it could be considered a taking of their property rights. So we are obligated to apply the city code. Are there any other questions that?
Okay, you guys are going to have to live with this. There's going to be problems parking. You're going to have neighbors on your tail. How would you like people to park in front of your house day and night? And then if you ever want to sell your house, how are you going to sell your house? You got a never-ending parking problem.
I don't think council is thrilled with that project, but it was out of our control to say no on it. We can't just arbitrarily say no to every project that we don't like. As far as the home project that's coming through that council did not take a vote on, from my understanding, I wasn't there that night, it is changing the code for every single development in this city. So it's not just one development. So I don't think it's dead in the water, but I think we're trying to figure out what's the best course of action.
Having that or having all the problems that you.
Oh, I agree.
Never-ending problem.
I don't disagree with you. And that's the problem, is trying to come up with a solution that works, and changing the code for every single
No, I know
home
that.
development, reducing the lot size. Is that the right answer at this point? We don't know for sure yet. We're trying to figure it out.
You gotta find
So,
out what the answer is.
Councilmember Alderman.
I'm glad you brought this up, because I was bringing it up tonight. I had a long conversation this afternoon with one of the developers. I got an email, and I got in contact with him, and we had a conversation of why, I can't speak for the rest of the members up here, but where I was at. And he left me short, and I explained to him why I didn't make the motion, because I was gonna make a motion to approve it, up for a vote. But he left me short because I was wanting, and it had nothing to do with lot sizes, it had nothing to do with parking. Mine was public safety. I come from the fire side of things, and as close as the houses were together, the offsets, as far as the size of streets, from the information that I had, I was not okay with that. But they didn't bring it, in their presentation, they failed because it wasn't brought to us. So, after my conversation with him this afternoon, we talked for quite a while. I was coming tonight, and I want the council, if you can, Mr. Goddard, I asked them to come back next week, or our next meeting, not next week. I want them to come back on our next meeting with the presentation they gave the planning committee, because what we had in front of us is not what the planning committee had in front of them. They had a lot more information than we did. I want the information that the planning committee did, because the email that I got today actually had layouts of mapping compared to the apartments and the townhouses. And like I told him, you bring this information to us, you're gonna have a little bit, at least my support, because I didn't have this in front of me. So I would like to have them come back at our next meeting and with the information they did not bring. And he even admitted to me, he goes, we didn't do a very good job selling this. They know they fell short. And so I told him, I said, I can't speak for everybody else, but for me, this is what I want to see. And so,
Is that something we can add to the agenda for the second meeting in the month?
Yes, if city council wants it, we'll have it on the agenda.
Do we have a semi-consensus without?
So would that be another workshop or just a presentation? Because when we had the workshop, they just they sent their attorney with some pictures of some houses.
Right, so it can be whatever city council wants. If you want a workshop followed by an action item, or
that's what I
however
would
you
like
wanna
to
do
see
it.
right there.
I think
How
a
about
workshop with
followed by an
discussion.
action item.
Yeah.
Because I think that was the one thing, and when it came up, there was no discussion because no motion was made. But I know for a lot of us, it was the fact that they were trying to change the code that would do anything, including any future annexation to our town. And there's one area of Woodland that already has very small lots, and that is a big concern of citizens that was already voiced even before that presentation that day. And we don't want all future projects to be able to have that small of lots. And I think for several of us, that was a huge concern, was making a code change to everything future, not just their project. And I think if we looked at it more on, or at least for myself, if I looked at it for just that project versus an entire code change, I would look differently upon it. But for an entire code change, including everything, annexing it in, I'm not okay with that lot size change. And so that is why I think some of that happened, so.
Councilmember Rounds.
Mr. Goddard, are they required to do sidewalks?
They're required to do full city streets.
Okay, and sidewalks.
Yep, both sides.
Now, will those sidewalks be on Lewis River Road?
So the
Facing.
frontage improvements on Lewis River Road would include sidewalks on their property boundaries.
Okay,
One of the issues that came up at the hearing, and that is, would they have to build a sidewalk or a crosswalk? And in this case, it was determined that they did not have to build a crosswalk. And there's a couple reasons for it. One is in the engineering world, if you don't meet engineering warrants, which essentially means the trigger for that improvement, making them build improvements that are not warranted actually could have a negative effect. So in other words, if there is a sidewalk at that location, the average young kid just thinks, oh, you go to a sidewalk, you cross the street, you're going to be safe because drivers know. And so they will be less careful, or pedestrians will take more chances because there's a crosswalk and they know, everybody knows that you stop. And the busier street, the more people who take reckless chances, the more accidents and fatalities that are going to be there. So it's not a straightforward thing of saying, yeah, everybody knows that we should have a bunch of sidewalks on 503 because it's safe. That's not necessarily a safe assumption. So in this case, they were determined we did not want them to do an intersection. Now, if we were to put a bunch of lights there, the lights would all have intersections on all four sides, and now we've got 8 lights in town instead of 2. So anybody who's driving on 503 is going to be mad at you because you installed all those lights and it takes forever to get through town. So the engineers apply their standards as planners do.
So I think we have consensus as far as putting a workshop and going from there. So I think we've answered kind of some of it, but I think if we're going to continue discussion, I think we need to have a workshop at this point, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So to clarify, you also wanted a action item?
Yeah, I
Or
would put
just-
it on there.
Yeah, because time is of the essence.
So
I'm assuming the action item would be the previous ordinance we had before council.
do we have consensus on doing that? Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Moving on. Rick Petit. Did I say the last name right? Pettit? Pettit? I get it wrong every time, don't I? I apologize. Pettit.
In a few more months, you'll get it.
I don't know if I will. I'm horrible with names.
Okay. I was here last month talking about the loss to my business because of the way the road was constructed in front of my store. Now that the road project's over, I have a more concrete number. $44,688.48, or if you want to round it off, $45,000. Tremendous blow to my business. Very hard to pay my bills. Anyway, I followed your advice and I filed a claim. No one contacted me for my input, but the guy did tell me that he had already found out all I needed to know and that I could get off the phone. He was a very smug, rude individual. I recommend you hire him a lot in the future. His name's Steve Whetstone. Anyway, he sent me this letter. Clear Risk, to whom it may concern. Clear Risk Solutions is the claims administrator for Cities Insurance Association of Washington, of which the City of Woodland is a member. In that capacity, the incident involving your claim for damages has been referred to our office for handling. You allege loss of income due to the way the West Scott Road reconstruction was and is being handled. I have completed my investigation into your claim for damages and have confirmed the City of Woodland was not performing construction in this area. I have also learned that this project was being performed by Advanced Excavating Specialists of Kelso, Washington. Based on this information, we are respectfully denying liability for your claim for damages and will be referring this matter to AES. Sincerely, Stephen Whetstone. So what this letter tells me is basically if I hire one of you guys to commit a crime and you get caught, I'm innocent because I didn't actually do the crime, I just hired you. I am here to urge the council to recommend the city officials make this right and pay me for the damages. I shouldn't be being a ping pong ball between AES's claims office and this guy in Ephrata. Just as a little anecdotal thing, that the road didn't affect my business, the day after the road reopened was the best day we had had in 3 months. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Pettit. You have a question? Councilmember Alderman?
This came up, I asked, Ms. Dowdy and I actually brought this up in committee. We asked about you personally. Tracy, could you talk to him about what we talked about, the process, about the insurance company, of the people that actually did the work?
He just spoke exactly what was shared with him. The process that I shared with you and what he just spoke of was exactly what happened.
Okay, well, I didn't understand it the same as he, in layman's terms, that way, we'll say loggers' terms, which I need, how it was explained to me is, that's why the construction people that did the work are licensed and bonded, because they're the ones responsible for your downfall of your business. So you need to file the claim with them. That's how the law is done.
I just don't wanna get in the situation where their insurance says tough shit, pardon my French.
No, you're good.
And you gotta go with the city, and then I go back to this clown over there in Ephrata, and he says, no, you gotta go to them, and 6 months later, I'm still getting bounced back.
Have you filed the claim with the insurance of the people that did the construction?
Well, the letter didn't include a phone number, so I'm gonna have to find the phone number. I wanted to talk to you guys first.
Okay, that's your next step. That is how, that's how it was explained to me, because because two of us asked about it in committee tonight.
If I
And
get double talked about it, I will be back next month, and the month after that, and until I die.
Thank you, Ms. Pettit. Thank you, Aaron, Alderman, or Councilmember Alderman. I'll get it right by the end of the
no,
meeting.
you won't.
Mr. Pettit, you're on here twice. You have more to,
Not on that topic, different topic.
different topic. Would you like to come up again for your other topic here?
This topic is because I made the mistake of coming last time and I heard something that made me think about it for a month and I came back. And that is voting on businesses and what. My comments are not in support or opposition to the pot store here in town. It's more of a small business owner way I look at things. And I think that the concept of voting on a business, whether it can be in the town or not, sets a dangerous precedent. I can think of a few things we didn't vote on in town, and so, like the food courts that are popping up all over. You know, some people might not want them, some people might. We didn't vote on it. The storage unit embargo that we have in this town, the town didn't get to vote on it. The city council made that decision. So, Be Young RV, great place. I shopped there. But no one voted whether we could have that or not. Brock's Bar and Grill, you know, kind of the opposite end of the spectrum from the fellows back there's pot shop. No one voted on adding another tavern to this town. The new civic center that's going in over by Horseshoe Lake, no one voted on that. So I guess my question is, are we just being selective on what we're gonna vote on and what we decide we don't want in this town? I mean, in this case, it's a legal thing in the state of Washington, and you guys have already been benefiting from tax dollars and funds from that business, so I don't know why we're so dead set against that, but that's why I have a feed store and I'm not on the council. Anyway, it just bothered me after I went home that we were gonna start voting on whether we could have businesses or not in town. You understand what I'm saying? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pettit. So that's all I have wrote down here. Is there anybody else in the lobby who would like to come up and comment for us items not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none. Anybody online would like to comment for items not on the agenda tonight? Had a request for people online to make sure that we're all speaking into our microphones. So if we can make sure we're doing that. Bear with me here. Into the microphone. So at this point, we will move on to agenda approval, and we need to do an agenda approval with the suspension of the rules to allow for public testimony before each action item.
I make a motion to approve the agenda with the suspension of the council rules.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rounds, seconded by Councilmember Dowdy. Ms. Hogan, can we take the roll?
Councilmember Alderman,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
Unanimous. And at this time, we will move into public hearing. The time is 7:25. And the public hearing is the 2024 property tax and revenue. Mr. Boyce, you had something to
Right.
present to us?
Yes, just one moment here. So council members have a handout. These are some numbers from Cowlitz County, and it's basically the city's valuation. Now, it talks about the highest lawful levy. We're nowhere near that. If council remembers, a couple years ago, we reduced our property tax in the amount of 1.4 million, which was in order to help facilitate the annexation into the fire district. So while citizens didn't see their taxes go down, we wanted to make sure they weren't double taxed. So basically, we reduced our expenditures, by the $1.4 million fire contract, and we reduced our revenues on the property tax side by 1.4 million. I wanted to point out the second line here. You can see new construction is estimated, and again, these aren't final numbers. The numbers should be finalized this week, I understand. New construction about 4.7 million, which resulted in $3,634 in new tax for the city. So a low year. At the end, I included a little paragraph. So the mayor is recommending right now in the current budget that we do not increase the property tax. By statute, you can increase it 1% per year. Council decided not to do that last year, and the mayor is proposing we do not do that this year. Our tax we levied was $861,000 for 2023. Of that, it should be noted about 630,000 is related to the police levy lid lift that was done a few years ago. So the 1% on that would be equal to basically $8,615. So if council wanted to implement the 1%, it would be an additional $8,615. So new revenue with regard to property tax, if you combine it with the new construction of $3,600, would be about $12,200. Right now, the mayor is recommending we do not do the 1%. I still do not have Clark County numbers. I should have those soon. But I wanted council to understand where we are. So really the 1%, since we reduced our levy so much 2 years ago, doesn't amount to a lot. It's $8,600 basically. So again, the mayor's recommending we do not do the 1% increase. And with that, we'll have some discussion next Monday at the budget meeting and discuss it further. And at the next meeting, you will have a ordinance regarding the tax. So it's up to City Council which way you would like to go. And like I said, these are estimates, and we hope to have more. We hope to have certified numbers. The assessor's office indicated probably this week we should have those.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Councilmember Rounds.
I myself would just as soon see it not added on to the tax rolls, because citizens are already paying enough for their water and utilities, and I feel that would be another hardship on them. So that's the way I feel about it.
Councilmember Alden.
I feel the opposite. We have so much. I'm trying to put this the easiest way I can put this out there without getting things thrown at me. One of the biggest complaints we hear from people are the city streets. Fix the streets, fix the streets, fix the streets. We all know we don't have any money for it, because we live off tax, sales tax. Granted, the amount here isn't a large amount. You're not going to get a lot of it done. But unless we start somewhere, I'm not against adding that 1% and putting that aside, earmark it for city streets and let it build until we do have enough money to do something. At least we're doing something, planning ahead, so we can do something for the streets. Because that's been one of the biggest complaints since I've been on here, and we all know I talked to a lot of people, you know, but that's one of the biggest things. We're not planning anything for it. Let's put something aside for it.
Councilmember Dowdy.
I'm in agreement with Councilmember Rounds that I don't feel at this time that's the best interest for our citizens. And so I would be against increasing at this time.
Anybody? The hard part about that 1%, it's compounding year over year. So if you don't take the 1% this year, next year you're behind. Cost of living was 8%, 7%, 2 years in a row, and the city is not immune to that 8% cost of living increase. And the most by law you can increase is 1%. So if you give up the 1% this year, it's 1 point something next year, and then the year after that it's 1 point something after that. And if we're relying fully on tax revenue, I think we need to look at going with the transportation benefit district as far as covering roads. So I agree, you know, the expenses are there, and I agree roads need to be looked at. And we can look at the budget and pull things out. I know Councilmember Burke and I were talking briefly today about whether we wanted to do the police position, another one there. We could pull that one and put that towards roads. But you know, you're asking somebody to pull a police position, which is not a favorable topic. I'm not saying I'm for that. I'm just throwing out there that there is options we could do that. The transportation benefit district, that right there to me is the best way to get the money as far as getting roads, because I think, is that for improvement of roads? Am I wrong, Pete, for the transportation benefit district for repairing roads?
It's for maintenance.
So, and that gets put on a tax as far as everything that's sold. So if we're looking to be more of a primarily tax benefit tax district where we're not pulling the money from property taxes, I think we need to look at doing that to get that money in to be able to repair the roads. And not only that, all that money comes from everybody who shops in Woodland, the county, the city residents, or every person who stops to go to get something just off the freeway real quick. So I think we need to look towards that avenue. That's just my opinion on it.
Question, let's see, so that goes towards repair of the roads.
Repair.
Is a repair is the same thing as replace? Because these roads are, we all know these roads are outdated, they need replaced.
That's my opinion, is it's, if the road's already there and you're redoing the road, it's replacing the road, which is, is repairing the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, it's just an idea. We need to do something, because there isn't a lot getting done. We hear that's one of the major complaints. I just want to see something getting started.
Yeah, and we did do some road repairs this last year. You're never going to do enough road repairs. I think, how many miles of road did you say we have, Tracy? 38 miles, is that, if I remember correctly?
26, and
26.
we've done more road repairs in the last 4 years that were done in 15
Yeah.
years past.
Councilmember Rounds?
When you were out talking to people, did you ask them if they'd like to have a 1% increase in tax to have this done?
A lot of them said no,
Yeah.
but a lot of them understood it at least as something. No.
Do people understand the ramifications of not doing it and the compounding of it and
No.
the law that's in place that, you know, we could skip it this year, but we can't do 3% next year.
Right.
And
Right.
that's
But
the
they
challenge
also,
with
they're
that.
also not aware that a lot of, and that's another, opens up, we're opening up a huge Pandora box. That's another issue of people not knowing, not being educated. That they don't even know that we solely live off sales tax. They don't know that. So they don't know we don't have the money to do it. So there's a whole bunch of not knowings out there. It's just, like I said, it was just an idea.
Ms. Smith had her hand raised.
Are we doing public comments during this?
We have before.
Mr. Smith, so it is a public comment,
Time frame?
public hearing. So,
Okay.
yeah, we do need to take input from the public.
Okay.
So,
Ms. Smith, yeah, please come up.
Just before you do that.
Okay, hold on.
Mr. Boyce, could you
Just kidding.
reiterate what the sales tax increase that we had? We just discussed this like at one of our last budget meetings. The sales tax increase for the TBD.
Right, so I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was, City Council has already enacted 0.1%. And with the vote of the citizenry, you could do another 0.2% sales tax.
That's if we put it on a ballot.
Yes.
And they've already voted against it twice.
Right, your only other option would be the $25 fee on license
tabs.
plates, and I haven't seen any support on
No.
council for that up to this point.
That would go purely on city residents, 100%.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas sales tax increases is for everybody who travels by, stops and gets.
Every
gas.
single thing sold. And I mean, RVs, I think if RVs are sold in here, I think part of that would go towards that. So auto dealers, I think, are one of our biggest tax revenue for the city.
And retail stores and
From retail stores.
construction.
Yeah.
So, Ms. Smith,
So yeah, anyway, I just wanted you to put that out there.
come on up.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm so glad that everybody's well after missing you, the meeting last week or whenever it was. Hey, I would like, us and the city of Woodland to spend our money more wisely. We had, the road, I think that's, Madrona and Spruce, and it was repaved. If anybody wants to go back and have a look at it, they did a lousy job, Tracy. It's pulling apart from the side of the wall, where the curb is, and if you do any resurfacing, I know it goes for bids, but the one that did Willow is really a nice, smooth area. And we're still, when I drive down Rhododendron and Madrona, it's and Spruce, it's like I get all the gravel in my tires in there. Anyway, I'm asking us to spend our money more wisely, and we're talking about, I still to this day don't figure out how we got the city center, and what are we gonna do with the old city hall, and also the old communities building, what are we gonna do there? They came in and did a really nice job inside of the old community building, and I go in there on Tuesdays for a meeting, but the floor goes like this, and you can see, when you walk in the door, you can see, or coming out, you can see the outdoors. So fixing up was wonderful inside, but the foundation is terrible, and the new flooring is coming up. So anyway, that's just my concerns. And and also there's when we're talking about the 1% increase, property owners gets it, but in the shorts, But the renters don't, and if we're having all these apartments built, and we're still not going to be getting much from them because they're renters. So, anyway, thank you very much for giving me my.
So the owners of the property who are renting them, they would get hit on it. You are correct. Mr. Deinhardt?
I guess I'm a little confused here on the 0.1%. I mean, you're talking small dollars here. So you're talking, $3,600 and you're compounding here for 10 years. I mean, if I compound that and I add another, percent each year, I mean, after 10 years, I'm talking less than $35,000, $40,000 here. Why are we going to put additional burden on our citizens here? Like Ms. Rounds just said, high water bills, everything else. And I mean, for $30,000, we have a $40 million budget here. And again, I know Maggie just said something about the Civic Center. You found $500,000 for a Civic Center that was completely unbudgeted. You found the dollar somewhere. $3,600 we can't find instead of raising the rates on our citizens.
You good? Okay. Any other questions or comments up here for council? No? Pete, do we have anything else to add? Okay. So this will be addressed later in the month to actually have a vote on it, I think we.
Right, so the next regular meeting, there will be an ordinance before city council. At this coming Monday, we'll have a budget meeting workshop where we can discuss it further.
Okay. So at this point, we will end the public testimony, public hearing. Yeah. So the time is 7:41, and we will end the public hearing on the 2024 property tax and revenue. We want to move on to reports of council before taking a break? I think so.
Sure.
So move on to reports of council. Anybody have anything? Oh, Councilmember Dowdy.
I just want to say how wonderful the Chamber of Commerce and the Halloween was down at the city downtown. It was a fantastic event. So many different costumes. The kids were so happy. It really was nice to see everybody in the community come out together to enjoy an event, and so much candy was passed out. It was the first time some of my kids got out to the event, and they really enjoyed themselves, and it was just nice to see everybody coming together, and the weather held out, so it wasn't rainy, and so I just appreciate everybody that put in the hard work in our community to make that event, and I hope that we continue to have more events like that, not less of them, for the community to come together and just unify as one community. So.
Councilmember Rounds.
I just wanted to mention that I bought tickets from the cheer squad and the football team, and I won a little gift, so that was kind of nice, even though I donated.
did see you.
Yes. I don't know that I'll use it, but I might give it to one of my grandkids.
Yeah, you won the escape room.
Yes, the
Yes,
escape room.
I know.
So.
Does anybody else have anything?
I did
Councilmember,
make the
sorry, Councilmember
Go
Alderman.
ahead. Go ahead. He's already
Okay.
started.
I did make
Councilmember Burke.
the groundbreaking on the new building we're getting built, and small. We'll see what happens to that. I went to the Rotary Gold Leaf event, which was really nice. Great time, good food over there in La Cena. More in La Cena. And-
Yeah, speak into your microphone.
Oh,
Turn
yeah,
it on.
over in,
There you go.
okay. Anyway, I went to the Gold Leaf event that they put on for the Build the Park, and good food, good auction. I didn't get nothing. So.
What did you say to begin with?
Oh, I went to the groundbreaking of the new building that we're building.
Civic Center.
And looking at the building, it's gonna be small. So I'm waiting to see what actually happens to it, what it becomes. But I was a ghost there.
Councilmember Alderman.
Yeah, I just want to kind of a pat on the back to the citizens of Woodland. Everybody knows that the football team made it to state. And with the levy failing, there was a thing this morning, kind of a group to the youth football that they were looking to raise funds. They had money for the buses, but the boys are going to be sleeping on the gym floor. Then expect to get up and play a state football game that night. So they were looking for donations, and in one day, City of Woodland gathered up over $3,000 to pay for a hotel room for the boys and the cheer squad to actually stay in a motel. That's huge. That's a community coming together, and that's what the foundation of this community was built on. And I was very happy and proud to be part of it. And there's more money coming in. I'm actually collecting money tomorrow from my employer, a couple other businesses, and my father, and that stuff's going to go for hopefully future state football games this year.
Councilmember Rounds.
I just wanted to piggyback on what JJ said about the Gold Leaf event. I donated 1 dozen of cream puffs for a year, and it brought $700, and they asked me if I would do it 2 times, so I donated $1,400 worth of cream puffs for twice. So anyway, it was one of their
council meetings.
one of their.
How much is that per cream puff?
I figured it costs about $800 out of the 14 for me to make them. So.
Well, thank you.
But anyway.
And I've
so
had
they
her
did
cream
good.
puffs, and they're great.
My update, I attended the Woodland Make a Difference Day, and I'd like to say thank you to Kathy and the Public Works crew. They supported it a lot. The numbers were drastically lower this year, and because we didn't have the people, there's elderly in this community that could not get some stuff done. As far as me, my family went out there. I dragged my 2 kids out there who are 7 and 8. They tried to do the best they could. A lot of whining that day. Also like to say thank you to Officer Thompson. He stopped, and while he was out working and on patrol, he was helping take care of some stuff and keeping my kids at bay while I was edging yards. But the Woodland Make a Difference Day is, you know, after talking with the one of the homeowners while I was out there, something as simple as literally disconnecting a hose for her to bring it to her garage because she couldn't get it disconnected. That's some of the stuff that gets done on Make a Difference Day. So we were out there total. I ran home, got some tools that I needed to help from my own stuff. And normally I don't give an update because I don't try to say what I go to do if I go out there and volunteer, but people need to show up and help for this. People need the help. One of the comments that was made to me is thank you. You know, every time I try to walk in this yard, I've fallen a few times now. And I think everybody realizes that when an elderly person falls, it could be the last fall that they have out there. So trying to get out there and help people, I think it's tremendously important, especially from that Make a Difference Day, because these are all local community residents that reach out to Kathy to try to get some stuff done. And while I was out there working, she was already trying to prod me for some of her other neighbors and get them on the list for next year. So I'm hoping we can get more people to try to help. I know I will try to make it again. I've made it the last, we didn't do a couple years of COVID because of that, but I've made it the last few years now, and it's been a really positive thing. So I'm hoping we can get more people to do it. So again, if you can tell Public Works, thank you, and tell Kathy, thank you for managing it and taking care of it. So, and Officer Thompson as well. Tell him thank you, please. Does anybody else have anything? Councilmember Holland?
I let you all go before I'm wordy. So this is November. When you go to Safeway and you buy your groceries, they may ask you if you want to support Turkey Bucks. And by donating money to that or rounding up your total, that money goes towards Thanksgiving meals for clients at the Woodland Action Center. And then those will be distributed. Usually the way it works, just so people get it, is that they get a turkey, microwavable sides like potatoes, gravy, macaroni and cheese, dinner rolls. Rather than give a box, it's part of people's regular food distribution day, so they can shop for the items they need. And Safeway is an amazing partner. We are one of the only Safeways where they get to go direct. All the other ones in Clark County, it all has to go to Clark County Food Bank, and Cowlitz County, it all goes to Lower Columbia CAP, and then they distribute it, whereas our Safeway fought to be able to keep all of your money local to help locals. So that's always been, that's a big one. And then right after that is gonna be Santa Bucks, and that'll be the Rotary benefits from those, and they are in charge of distributing holiday meals during Christmas time.
And gifts.
Yes.
And gifts to kids.
So, just some of the things when you go to Safeway, that's why they're collecting that and why they ask you. Still wearing my Woodland Action Center hat. We had a booth at the downtown trick-or-treaters thing. I am 53 and never once attended one of those, and I grew up here. So my son and his wife brought my 3.5-year-old granddaughter, and I got to bail on our booth, and I got to go farm compliments and take her around and trick-or-treat her to everybody, so that was kind of fun. And she saw the picnic benches inside of 100 Davidson, Tracy, and we have to rest now. So we got to sit in there, and you guys, your family was having dinner, so yeah, you're in the back of a picture I took of my granddaughter anyway. So,
I normally avoid them.
yeah.
Pictures.
So I think that was kind of what I wanted to, yeah, I think that was about it that I wanted to cover. Just that the Turkey Bucks thing, that is a legit thing that Safeway does keep local, and that I thought it was fun to do the trick-or-treater thing. We distributed probably like 700 pounds of candy, the Woodland Action Center. So anyway.
I will make an update to that. I think talking with Kathy on, I think Woodland Safeway donated donuts for Make a Difference Day. We can add them to the thank you. And I did Dairy Gold. I think Dairy Gold donated a bunch of milk, chocolate milk, regular milk, and whatnot for this as well. And did they donate water too, I think, Safeway?
Safeway donated
Water, yeah. And yeah, and she brought up a point about the firehouse. We did go attend and had stuff from each food cart there, and it was very good food, and it was nice to have a spot down there to take my kids to go eat. So I know it's controversial and some people aren't happy about it, but it was actually pretty nice and pretty decent in there, and I think you guys did a good job on it, so thank you.
And they were handing out candy.
Yeah. Does anybody else have anything they would like to update? Nope. Okay. Moving on from reports of City Council to reports of standing committee. Public safety.
Public safety, we had our meeting today. Basically, I got one thing to report, that we have, our new lateral is working on the roads already, doing patrols, and hopefully next month he'll be able to do it by himself. And according to the chief, he should be ready for the road on November 20th. He's a lateral person.
Councilmember Burke, can you move your microphone right in front of you?
I did.
Well,
You want me to eat it?
No.
Well, no, because you turn
You're right here,
Oh,
you turn your head.
oh, okay.
So
Well,
just
I guess I'm guilty of that.
keep it in front of you.
Yeah, okay. And that's all I got to report.
Now that we have you dialed
Now that I
in.
talked on the mic.
And the next
Say,
meeting,
Is this plan this day? I go, no.
next meeting is December 4th at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Public Works.
That's me. So we started our meeting at 5:46. Some highlights, just so folks know, we cover 10 pages of information of projects at Public Works, and I just give you the highlights, or we'd be here all night. So for the water treatment plant, what are we doing? We're working with a contractor to get, the Randy Well cleaned out. Let's see. Oh, there were no water quality complaints this month. That's pretty exciting stuff. Let's see, we had 2 bad setters on 1 pipe failure, so there were a couple water leaks, so those were addressed. They replaced 6 bad water meters since last month, and they had 25 rereads this month. So a reread is if there's an excessive number of an excessive amount of water usage, they go back out and double check. They're continuing to vac out lift stations around the city. Oh, I wanted to bring this out in the front lobby. You will see these. This is part of a new program to keep grease out of our pipes. So this is nothing but toilet tissue down the pipes and no grease down your drain. So there's something out on the table. You should grab one on your way out. Because that just causes a lot of problems for our Public Works Department. Lift Station 8 upgrade is operational. One of our longtime staff members, Bob Fowler, has retired. West Scott is open. Final items on that are going to be finished up in the next couple weeks. Striping is going to happen later this month, hopefully weather permitting. Cleaning leaves off grates. You'll see Public Works people around town cleaning leaves so that you don't have big puddles of standing water. There was a project over on Embassy Loop where they had a lot of ponding, and they did they put in a new, a dry well and some catch basins. That's it. So now there is no longer a lake. I was there in that neighborhood yesterday, and I thought that looked really nice, and I'm sure the neighbors appreciate not having a lake in their road. It also helps save the roads. Potholes, our Public Works folks will be out working on filling some potholes, and if you don't know, you can report a pothole in your neighborhood by going on to the city website. And it's a really simple form to let Public Works know. Street sweeping will be happening later this month, 1st of December. They always do it around Christmas time. Let's see, street lights. The last 50 of those will be replaced. Oh, food trucks at 100 Davidson. There was a lot of turnout during Halloween. We have the only Hawaiian place in town down there, and the update with the Flavor Burst ice cream truck is that their machine is on the way, so they hopefully will be there in time for Winterfest. And then let's see. Oh yeah, so there were 25 volunteers who turned out for Make a Difference Day. So even though not one person signed up through Public Works, 25 folks did show up to volunteer in their community and make a difference. Department of Corrections showed up earlier this month to help do some cleanup around town. They cleaned up an abandoned encampment over by the lake. Ms. Coleman will be applying this month for additional funding from the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program to address some stormwater runoff over on Gun Club. And it looks like with West Scott nearly 90% complete, they have their request in for the TIB reimbursements. She's also putting in an application to work on South Pekin, so we hope to get funding for that. And I think that's about, those are the highlights. Is there anything you'd like to add, Ms. Coleman?
I'd just like to say in regards to the street lights, when you're saying we have 50 that we're replacing, we're upgrading the HPS heads to LED, so we'll be 100% LED compliant within the city, and therefore we have a reduction in our overall energy usage bill.
Nice.
On the 90% complete on the Scott Hill Road,
Not Scott Hill, West Scott.
I mean West Scott,
Mhm.
yeah, is it gonna have to be closed anymore?
No,
No? Okay,
it's open. It's fully paved.
okay.
Is that everything?
And then I think we're supposed to meet, this always says 6 o'clock, and we always meet at 5:30, so you were not wrong when you said.
Yeah, I'm like, it was 6 o'clock.
So we just need to get that changed. It's just, because it's 10 pages, our meeting runs way longer than I think the other groups, so.
'Kay.
Anyway,
So next meeting's December 4th at 5:30
Yeah.
in
there you
council.
go. In there.
Okay. Okay, reports of advisory committees. I don't think we have any reports normally for that. Nope. Sorry.
Unless Chamber or Planners Day.
Normally Chamber has her own
Oh, okay.
coming up here. Councilmember Rounds.
I just was gonna say, we're meeting Wednesday, I believe it is, in the council chambers for the hotel motel dollars. So we'll be having that Wednesday.
Is that the LTAC? Is that what that's called?
Yes, at 6 p.m.
Okay. And then anything else? Okay, seeing none. Reports of city officers. I don't know if the mayor's on here or not, but doesn't look like it that I can see. So we'll skip over to Pete. Mr. Boyce.
So I was going to mention, excuse me, I was going to mention what Councilmember Rounds mentioned, that the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee will meet November 8th at 6 p.m. in this room. I think there's a park board meeting prior to that, but it will take place after that. Reminder, November 10th, Friday, the city offices will be closed for Veterans Day. Then the following Monday, the 13th, we have our Budget Committee meeting. Planning Commission meets on the 16th, and again, the regular City Council meeting on the 20th. So with regard to the next budget meeting, we'll be running through some of the less significant funds to make sure City Council understands what's going on with those. We'll talk property tax. We'll open it up to discussion for City Council. So this is, at any time during the budget process, City Council can amend the budget any way it sees fit. So start thinking about if you have any changes you want to propose to the group.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
all.
Boyce. And is that it for reports of city officers tonight? Okay. Move to consent items. Chair will take a motion for the consent items tonight.
Make a motion to approve the consent items.
Oh, do we
with
do,
Yes, we do.
okay, with the public comment in there?
Yes,
So normally we do public comment first, right? And then we go to do a,
yes.
so, open this time.
Amend the council rules.
Well, we amended them. I'm skipping ahead because I
Okay,
didn't say
all
it,
right, So we
so,
don't have to do it again?
well, we just need to, so we'll hold off on doing a motion for that and we'll open it up for public comment on the consent items.
I think they do it on each one.
Not for
No.
consent.
Not consent
Don't they?
items.
Do it
They don't?
once. No,
No, no,
really
just
do
on-
for the meeting.
Okay.
So the consent items do not, we don't do public comment on the consent items
I mean,
typically.
I thought we did.
I thought we just did them on the action items, on each individual action item, not the.
Councilmember Smith, we
Yeah.
do take public comment on
Okay,
consent items. We
That's what I
don't do it
thought.
individually. They can comment on anything on the
Okay.
consent agenda.
so we'll open it up for public comments regarding consent items. If anybody in the lobby would like to speak on consent items, now is your time. So seeing none, anybody online that would like
Wait.
to, oh, is there one in here? Oh. I'm gonna try to drag your name out of my head here. Miss Johnson, thank
Mrs.
you.
Johnson.
I know it, I just can't on the spot pull it out of my brain.
I'm having trouble recognizing the consent item, but I understand there was going to be a decision on an amendment to the code so that there's a change in the fire code as it relates to a addition that,
So there's an action item tonight for the fire code, action item E, and we'll open
Okay.
up public comment for that one if you want to specifically address that one.
Actually, it's F.
F, is it F? Sorry, I apologize. The retooling of our code, sorry. So there's anybody else in the lobby that would like to speak on consent items? Oh, Mr. Deinhardt.
Can someone help me understand what's the sign that we bought for the land, property, in the check register here?
The
Do you want to
What
see
do you
that?
mean?
the $400 one.
Yeah.
I was told tonight that it was for the 100 Davids. No?
So
Okay,
on
sorry.
What,
Hold on.
Hold
what
on.
part of the voucher? What page?
They've changed what was online last Thursday versus today is a little bit different, so I have to go find it on my phone here. It says right here, it's aluminum sign ramp lot donated. Advanced electrical signs. I just am looking at the check register,
For 9180?
page
So it's,
1 of 36, page 37.
it is the very first item at the top.
Yeah,
Mis-
90
Mr.
$91.
Boyce.
Yeah, what kind of sign are we buying? Okay, never mind then. I do have a question since you brought up 100 Davidson, and we've talked a little bit about it. How much have we spent renovating and getting that ready for the food carts versus what we've generated on that?
I asked for those numbers tonight, and they are coming.
So we have
Okay.
no idea, because I did notice on the Halloween, they were using the city's electricity and everything. And when I first asked about that at a council meeting, they said they would be self-contained using generators. And so it seems to me that these food carts are actually getting a benefit over brick and mortar businesses here that we have in town. So we've kind of given a disadvantage to those, individuals.
Okay.
So
I'd like to respond to the first question. The first question is, we had Taylor Transport do a lot of volunteer work for us, and that was an appreciation donation sign for the thousands of dollars that they put into Gorig Park. That's what that sign is for. It's an appreciation for that. So if we can get some more specifics, I can probably answer it a little better. So I didn't know exactly what you were asking until I was able to pull that up.
Okay.
It just says right here, that's how it's going by the description, ramp lot donated.
Right. So it was for the ramp work done at Gorig Park that we recognized Taylor Transport at one of the last meetings.
Okay. Thank you.
And I didn't get the, because I was looking that up, I didn't get the other comment from Mr. Deinhardt in regards to 100
think-
Davidson.
I think Councilmember Dowdy answered it. She asked the
Okay.
questions about cost of 100 Davidson so far, and
Right.
she's waiting on those answers.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So there's anybody online that would like to speak towards consent items tonight? Okay, seeing none, Chair will take a motion for the consent items.
Motion to approve consent items.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rounds, motion by Councilmember Dowdy, seconded by Councilmember Rounds. Ms. Hogan, can we take the roll?
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Alderman.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Do we want to take a short 5-minute break here before we go into action items?
Yes,
Thank-
please.
Okay, so the time is 8:08, and we will reconvene at 8:15. We'll just round it up to 8:15. The time is 8:15, and we will reconvene here. So if I can get everybody to take their seats and silence in the lobby here.
Yes, and then it'll change again.
Yeah, knock it down.
I went over and turned it up last time. But it's almost empty over.
Why isn't this starting? There we go. So I missed a couple of comments here on the chat bar. I don't see them coming up, but there was some comments here during the public testimony. I'll make sure that they get put into the record, but I did give ample time for people online to speak. So I will make sure these comments here on our chat bar are put into the record, though. Is that good? Okay. So we will move on to action items. So moving on to action item D, resolution number 771, surplus of outdated taser ammunition. If anybody would like to come up and speak regarding resolution number 771 in the lobby, now is your time. Seeing none, if there's anybody online that would like to speak towards action item D, resolution number 771, now would be your time. Okay, we will move on to action item D. Chair can take a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Jeez. Motion to approve by Councilmember Dowdy for resolution number 771, surplus of outdated taser ammunition. I should have said that in the beginning. I apologize. Seconded by Councilmember Alderman.
Wasn't me. I was the only one that didn't say anything.
I heard somebody down at that
We'll
end.
give it to everybody.
Seconded by Councilmember Burke. Councilmember Dowdy.
Yeah, it's just something we need to go ahead and do. We updated ours, and this is to get rid of it and put a little money back in our pocket.
Councilmember Burke.
I agree. Get some money back.
Councilmember Alderman. You want to say anything?
Only if I get the buy.
Why you want
Any other further comment?
You sat next to me and you asked me that question.
Seeing none. Ms. Hogan, can we take the roll? I apologize. I'm not going to quit my day job.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Alderman,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy.
Aye.
Motion carries on action item D, resolution number 771. Moving on to action item E, ordinance number 1542, transportation impact fee. If anybody in the lobby would like to come up and provide testimony regarding ordinance number 1542, transportation impact fee, final reading, now would be your opportunity. If anybody online would like to provide testimony on action item E, ordinance number 1542, transportation impact fee, final reading, now would be the opportunity. Seeing none.
Motion to approve ordinance number 1542, transportation impact fee, final reading.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Dowdy, seconded by Councilmember Alderman. Councilmember Dowdy.
It has been a long time since we've updated these, and in order for our roads and things to be funded better, I would say that this is way overdue. And so I think we definitely need to move forward with this, especially with all the new development that is coming to Woodland, just like the parks fees that we updated recently.
Councilmember Alderman.
I agree with everything Ms. Dowdy just said.
Any further comment? Seeing none. Ms. Hogan, we take the roll.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Alderman,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
Motion carries on action item E, ordinance number 1542, transportation impact fee, final reading. Move on to action item F, ordinance number 1546, retooling our code 2023 batch of development, code amendments, first reading. If anybody would like to speak on ordinance number in the lobby on ordinance number 1546, now is your opportunity. Ms. Johnson?
Probably should ask if this is the right one.
That's why I'm calling you here.
It's your time to shine.
It's my time to shine. Well, let's see if I will. Today, I think that the reason I got involved in it, because I know it affects a business here in Woodland, which is Columbia River Carbonates. And I went over there with my son Anders and actually with Carol Rounds. And I saw what they are intending to do. This company is one of the best companies we have in Woodland. If there would be any danger with what this amendment would require, they wouldn't do it. We looked at the items that they're going to store. It would be almost impossible for them to burn. And it's my understanding that a lot of the reason it's being looked at differently is because of the size of the building, and that north of here, most of the surrounding area doesn't have that particular code. And so this would make it more like some of the other codes. And you should really look at if something is going to create a fire hazard, then that's one thing. But to do things that not only cost money but cost time, which is money, is, I think that the council has to look at that very seriously. So I hope you approve the amendment as it is written and as it's been presented. I've kind of looked at it. I didn't understand the title of it, but I did look at the amendment, and I can't see any hurt at all, and I can only see a benefit.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Is there anybody else in the lobby who would like to speak on this? If you'd like to step up and say whatever name you would like to go by
Sure.
today.
My name is Josh Carstairs. I'm a professional engineer. I design heavy industrial facilities. I've been doing that for about, 15 years now. Wow. So I was just going to talk a little bit about how the current codes work, how they're set up, what your guys' code looks like. I want to talk through the proposal that we have, and then I'll just do a quick conclusion on all that.
So I think you got about 5 minutes during this public testimony. So
Okay, I can do it fast.
Okay, speak very quickly if we're trying to be
You done?
same time for everybody.
Sure. I think most of the stuff you guys already know. Let me know if I'm using acronyms or other things as I talk. I live in this code world, so it's heavy on acronyms. As you know, Washington State adopts the International Building Code. That has both the building code and the fire code in it. That sets the minimum safety requirements for the entire state of Washington. Each jurisdiction, counties, cities can adopt additional requirements to that. So that's what you guys have done. You have adopted an amendment that essentially, instead of just requiring fire sprinklers when the International Building Code, the IBC, requires it, you guys require them for all structures 5,000 square feet or greater. Interestingly, there is one exception in your amendment, and that's for, it says the requirement shall not apply to covered play areas or similar open structures where no equipment is stored. I think that carve out is there because there's an implicit reasoning of safety there. It's silly to require fire sprinklers in these covered play areas. I'm thinking in my mind something like a school with a basketball court or a covered play area. The risk of that structure being engulfed in fire is low, and it's really easy for the firefighters to fight. It would be open. If you kind of go on a thought experiment with me and take that same structure and then take down the basketball hoops and instead put a pile of gravel or some similar non-combustible material in it, now your code requires fire sprinklers, which doesn't seem to make a whole lot of room for, or a whole lot of sense to me. So what we propose to do is make another carve out, another exception for your policy that would exempt both F2 and S2 buildings from this blanket square footage sprinkler requirement. So I threw some acronyms at you. F2 is low hazard factory industrials. That's use that involves fabrication or manufacturing of non-combustible materials that during processing do not involve a significant fire hazard. Examples are like gypsum, ice production, metal products. S2 are buildings that are used for storage of non-combustible materials. You can have storage of non-combustible products on wooden pallets, so there is some combustible materials there. They can be stored in paper cartons or paper wrappings. You can use small amounts of plastic trim, knobs, or wrappings is also allowed in this S2 categories. The examples of that is like cement in bags or frozen food products, glass, metal, all things that are really low risk, low hazard of starting a fire. The IBC code does allow some accessory uses to support an F2, S2 occupancy. So you can have like a small shipping office or a small administrative space. Has to be less than 10% of the total space. But that office would then be B occupancy. So you could have like papers, like this space basically in there. So it's not totally all non-combustible, but the majority of these uses are non-combustible materials, and it would be in a non-combustible building. So the big point that I want to make is that we are asking for a relaxation of this local amendment, but because we relaxed the local amendment for F2, S2, it's important for you to know that that doesn't just eliminate this requirement for fire sprinklers. The IBC code would still be in effect at all times. And IBC code sets the minimum safety standards and is the code that's used throughout the state and throughout most of the nation, actually. So if you did relax this code, some IBC requirements that would still apply to F2, S2 buildings, you could still you would still need fire sprinklers if you had a very large area building, if they were storing things that were risky, if they were storing hazardous materials, if there was low setbacks, like the buildings are clustered tightly together or close to a property line, you'd need fire sprinklers. If you store things more than 12 feet tall, then you trigger high pile storage requirements. There's all sorts of requirements there for fire sprinklers. If you have more than 2 stories, you need fire sprinklers. Sometimes you have really long egress requirements. You can use fire sprinklers to get longer egress distances. My point is, again, if you relax this amendment, there's still plenty of safety in the IBC and plenty of things that could trigger the requirements for fire sprinklers beyond just this current blanket requirement for 5,000 square feet that we're trying to relax. So
I'm gonna stop you right there for just a second.
Okay.
So you're a little bit over, but I think it's pertinent information for us. So council can suspend the rules if they want to let him continue.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Motion to allow more time for public testimony by Councilmember Dowdy, second by Councilmember Rounds. Do we take a vote on that? Yes. Ms. Hogan, can we take the roll on that?
Councilmember Alderman,
No.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
Sorry. Please carry on.
No problem.
Motion carries. I apologize.
So I can just wrap this up in conclusion. Need about 2 more minutes. You can always make buildings safer. One of the things that is really challenging as an engineer and as a code official is defining the line of safety and efficiently using limited resources. So an example, this is obviously a silly example, but we could put fire sprinklers all up and down I-5. If there was a car wreck, the cars would trigger the sprinklers and would be put out. That would be wonderful, but the cost would just be massive. So I think everyone can agree that would be a silly thing to do. It's a waste of resources. My point being that making that balance is challenging, and it's one of the things that I try to do daily. The local amendments that you have that require fire sprinklers based on square footage only does not consider the building's usage at all, and I think it should. The cost of adding sprinklers to these large industrial facilities that store and manufacture non-combustible goods in a non-combustible buildings is not trivial. It's a very large cost. Again, relaxing the square footage requirement that you have for low hazard uses in non-combustible buildings does not eliminate fire sprinkler requirements. It allows the state adopted IBC requirements to apply. Resources are limited. The building code does its best attempt at balancing safety and cost. The stated goal of the International Building Code is to provide a reasonable level of life safety and property protection from the hazards of fire. The IBC code, if allowed to be used, does allow an unsprinklered one-story F2 or S2 building regardless of floor size. And that's what I think should be allowed in this case. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Is there anybody else in the lobby that would like to come up and speak? Chief Jackson.
Mayor, Pro Tem, members of council, I appreciate the opportunity to share with you again. With the fire sprinkler ordinance, we are not concerned about necessarily the specific situation that applies to Columbia River carbonates, albeit their situation is relatively unique. The relatively broad brush approach that is being proposed with the very specific amendment that was proposed opens the door to a lot of things that are not as described. A few corrections. The current code for an open structure addressing the play equipment of that, if it's an open structure with no walls, it would not require sprinklers with piles of gravel or any of those things. So that is a little bit inaccurate. Previous things that had been said by the folks proposing the code amendment with Columbia River carbonates, that in the F1 or F2, S2 occupancies, you could not have high piled storage. You could not have combustible packaging. And those were inaccurate assumptions. Realizing that may not apply to the case that they're looking at, which is one of the reasons we would look at either doing a development agreement with them for their unique specific scenario as we would with other folks with similar developments. But additionally, it could apply to other businesses with a much greater hazard, albeit still somewhat small. We look at the code as a minimum standard. There's standards for everything, including when we look at police response, fire response. One of the things that we look at, our response has gotten better as we have consolidated fire services as a fire district. That has been beneficial. Although for low and moderate hazard responses, the standard would say that we should have an active force of 28 folks on scene within 8 minutes. That obviously is not practical for the type of area we live in. A lot of rural areas don't have these sorts of commercial and industrial occupancies. We do. Part of how we have mitigated that is to have that standard that's above the minimum standard. In the case with the code as it's proposed, the code change as proposed, you could have essentially an unlimited area building with boxed, palletized materials, single story, unlimited. You could stack it up to 40 feet high in racks over 12,000 square feet. And that is a different scenario than what we're talking about at Columbia River Carbonate. So we would just hope that we can look at a little bit more specific approach that deals with their specific needs and doesn't open the door for a broader range of risks. We did propose some potential language on there, and I do actually have a video. It's a brief couple-of-minute video that is literally a side-by-side of what this code could allow. It is not what Columbia River Carbonates is proposing to have in their facility, but it is what the code amendment would allow. And it is whereas I said the code change as proposed by Columbia River Carbonates would allow 40-foot storage up to 12,000 square feet of products like we're looking at. The video clip that we have it's 12 or 15-foot storage, and it's a side-by-side of sprinklered versus unsprinklered. They simulated a non-combustible product like a washer or dryer inside a carton on a pallet, and that's what the brief video shows, which would be what they're showing is an S2 occupancy, just like is proposed with the code change. So I'd like to show the video briefly and then answer any questions that you might have.
Are we okay with the video, guys and gals? Okay.
And there is audio, but it's not that critical. See, it's a side-by-side of an S2 occupancy. Storage, as proposed, could go up to 40 feet. This is 12 to 15 foot high, sprinklered versus unsprinklered, and it's essentially a metal-lined, single-layered cardboard box that would simulate non-combustible products in a rack storage configuration and an S2 occupancy like we've talked about.
So these are non-combustibles in each box?
Yeah, it's essentially just a metal liner, an empty metal liner with a cardboard, single layer cardboard carton around it, which is a non-combustible commodity as described by the F2 and S2 occupancy.
And your response time is what?
In the city, our initial response time with 3 folks is going to be within 6 minutes. To give you an example, for us to get that firefighting force of 28 people, we're pulling from Battleground, Kalama, Salmon Creek, and that would be assuming that everyone's in quarters and no one is on a call, which is virtually never the
And about
case.
District 1, they would also respond?
Yes, depending, if they're available. It's a respond from home, so
Right.
if it's in the evening or a weekend, I would say 2 to 5 people. If it's during the day, during work hours, we're not likely to get a response from them.
And one's with sprinklers, one's without? Is that-
Correct.
And is this same material that's in the?
Yeah, it's the same. It's an
building?
identical material it's actually in the Factory Mutual burn laboratory that they have.
No, I mean, for what?
Well, so this is not what Columbia River Carbonates
Okay.
is proposing that they have in their facility, but this would be allowed by the code change that they are proposing. So that's kind of our point, is we would like to work specifically on the situation at Columbia River Carbonates, knowing that this isn't what they have, but the code change they're proposing would allow this. That's our bigger concern, is kind of a broad brush approach to a code change that could open the door for a hazard that's much more significant than what Columbia River Carbonates proposes.
And that's part of this that you.
Yeah, and we drafted what could be some sample language on the back there, and that was based off the information from prior testimony from Columbia River Carbonates about what they perceived would be the limitations of an F2, S2 occupancy, and as I understood, what they would be proposing in their building.
You've touched, in the past, you've touched on how if the code was changed, it would affect the insurance, fire insurance and stuff around.
Yeah, so insurance companies propose their rate structures to the state of Washington under the Department of Insurance. One of the ways that they use as a main tool to calculate that, and agencies can all use it differently, but there's 2 parts that apply to us. One is the public protection classification, or the PC classification, where they rate water supply, communications, the fire department, our training, our staffing, our equipment, all of those things, and they provide a score for the area that we serve. Currently, we're a 5. That is going to be moving to a class 4 it should be announced, we're anticipating this month from Survey and Ratings, and that should help afford some folks a property insurance increase. The other piece that they do is the building code effectiveness grade, or what they refer to as the BCAG score, where they evaluate the codes and the enforcement of those codes that you have in place in the community. When we have been rated, a piece of what applies to that is our proactive sprinkler ordinance, and has helped us obtain those scores, which help drive down property insurance rates. So with a change in the sprinkler code, that would affect our building code effectiveness score, potentially, as well as our protection classification score. It's a relatively complex formula that they own and use, so to say exactly how much on which building is a complicated question, and each insurance company has their own rate formulas. But generally, especially on commercial properties and residential properties, I think outside of State Farm, use those scores as a key component to how they do their rate determinations.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
So that is one piece that could be affected by a change in the fire code.
Yeah. Councilmember Dowdy.
Okay, so basically, keeping the amendment as written, but adding more language is what you're proposing.
What?
Is you coming up here and taking out the end, otherwise compliant with Washington Building Fire Code. You want to add the 40 feet high and 20,000 square feet. So you want to just increase the size of the building and then take out that no pallets, rack storage.
Yes, what Columbia River Carbonates had proposed as the code change was the top paragraph in black and the
Which
bottom
is all F2 and S2.
and the bottom section in red.
Right.
We are proposing to take the last part of theirs off because it's kind of irrelevant. It doesn't necessarily
So-
need to be in there. And then adding the language in the green, which based off the testimony they'd given, we assumed would help address their specific needs.
So if doing that, can I ask a question to them specifically? Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm okay with it. I don't know about
Have you
everybody else.
seen the language?
Excuse me, I would like to make some comments.
Okay.
Well, okay.
Concerning this.
I guess I just want clarification. So what you're saying is if they were to put that, according to their testimony, you're saying that this would meet their needs, so they don't have to come and go through another loophole to get their building approved as is without sprinklers for this particular thing. Is that my understanding of what this language would do and prevent other businesses to just come in with that code without having to?
Yes, that would be the hope, and based off.
It's kind of a compromise between the two?
Right, and based off what they testified to council at the last, on what they understood the F2 and S2 limitations to be, I assume that would meet those.
Okay.
Certainly something we could work on to tailor things to meet some of their specific needs, I believe.
Well, and that's what I guess my clarifying question is, does that meet what they're looking for as far as their business plan? So that they don't have to jump through the, I mean, that's.
Makes everybody
We'd have to look at it
speak.
closer. The short answer is, the square footage requirement.
I'll have you come up. I'll have you come up to the podium. I think, is it Mr. Bleak, I think, was wanting to come up, or?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So I would need time to look at that and digest it, but the short answer is, so let me back up and make a couple of quick statements. The way we have written this excludes it for us. You still could have high pile storage, I guess. Somebody could do cardboard boxes like that if they were under 5,000 square foot. It doesn't change that. What we're doing here is no different than is in Kelso, Castle Rock, Longview, Cowlitz County. I checked every jurisdiction going north, most of them going south. I think Ridgefield, I couldn't find it in the center books, though he said it was in there. I couldn't find it. And there's kind of a 12,000 square foot, but it has some other criteria on Vancouver, City of Vancouver.
All those other jurisdictions have that language?
No.
All the other jurisdictions don't have any of this.
Okay.
They just go by the IBC and IFC. So we're only trying to make a carve out to where we follow IBC and IFC just for our type of occupancy. But they don't have any statement like that in there. and they obviously function just fine. There's a potential possibly that maybe tweaking the square footage or stuff like that, we could come to an agreement there, but as he has it written, wouldn't meet our purposes. It would depend on how you count the 20,000 square foot, because we have multiple buildings that are all kind of attached to each other, and if they're all treated as one square footage, then we would be over 20,000 square foot.
That was my question.
Yeah, so that's what I have. That's the clarification I want to make.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't get your name for the record, if you wanted to
Brady
state.
Whale.
Brady Well, thank you.
Okay, first I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Jörg Bleek. 1985, I started Columbia River Carbonates as a very small company. Today, we are the largest property taxpayer in Woodland. We have 100 employees, 19% are citizens of Woodland, and 46% are citizens live in Cowlitz County. I like to explain why we don't need sprinkler system for our process buildings and warehouses, because they do not contain combustible materials. All we do is grinding rocks to fine powder. And with common sense, you know that rocks do not burn. We bring in white marble from Alaska and grind it to fine powder. And this fine powder, some is mixed with water and shipped in 10 cars to our customers. We also have a customer in Vancouver. His name is Pacifier Protection Partners, and they manufacture fire stop compounds which help to protect life and property. Pacifier Protection Partners buys our product in truckload quantities. Would you please pass this around? I took a picture of the product. Then, if marble gets exposed to high temperatures, CO2 or carbon dioxide is released, which is used in fire extinguishers. This is a fire extinguisher which uses to extinguish fire carbon dioxide. We also process gypsum dihydrate from Baja California. And dihydrate means that each gypsum molecule has attached 2 water molecules. In construction, gypsum is used as heat-resistant, noise-absorbing, moisture-preserving, and fire-proofing material. Gypsum board, also known as drywall, has an important advantage because it's resistant to fire, as the product contains water which is released as steam, slowing down the heat transmission. So I thank you very much for your attention, and I hope common sense will prevail.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I say one other quick thing?
Yes.
I do know, we're talking mainly about this, how does it affect everybody else in the area? I can say like Hamilton Drywall, who we serve product to, they don't qualify in this type of occupancy because they have too much packaging stuff into their thing. We don't high pile stack. It's not something we could do because of the nature of our products. If you can imagine a bag full of 3,000 pounds of stone, you put 2 of those on top of each other, you've got 3 tons of stone. If you wanted to stack higher than that, the amount of structure you would need just to hold that is not possible. So that's not something we would ever do, and it's not something we can do. So I
Okay.
think that's
Thank you for your time.
Excuse me, I'm Anders Johnson, and I'm from Seattle, actually, but Woodland just wants to be business friendly, right? And this is a business friendly kind of thing. And also, if it's good enough for other around us, it's good enough for us then too.
Thank you.
I just want to comment.
Any further public testimony from anybody in the lobby? Seeing none, is there anybody online that would like to provide public testimony for action item F, ordinance number 1546, retooling our code? Seeing none, at this point,
Motion to approve
Second.
ordinance number 1546.
motion by Councilmember Dowdy, seconded by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Dowdy.
I just think as long as they're meeting the IBC, I think that if all of the places around us are operating that way, I don't see why we are trying to stop a business that's been so good to Woodland, and having them jump through loopholes and continuing to try to push this even further out. I think we just need to move forward and go with what our surrounding areas are mostly doing.
Councilmember Rounds.
Well, I visited the building today, and they only stack at 2 high, and it's like he said, they can't stack any higher than that. They're a huge contributor to our city and region. They built a deepwater port out at the Lower Columbia, which is going to decrease the truck traffic once those barges start bringing their rock in. They built a park out there. They're one of our better companies here in Woodland. And anytime they build something that needs sprinklers, they're more than willing to put sprinklers in. They have office buildings, they put them in. They're not opposed to doing what is right. But if we do, I can't see any reason why not to go by the IBC and the IFC code.
Any further questions? Councilmember Alderman.
I understand completely where you're coming from, and I thank you for your presentation. It kind of educated me a little bit more. I still have a hesitation because, like the chief brought up, it's still, if we change that code, it will open the door for future businesses to come in, and it'll affect them. And it'll also affect insurance for the existing businesses, drive their costs up, because it'll change the response rating of the fire district. And so if we're talking cost, other people are going to be affected by it. So that's where I'm kind of hung up on.
So I missed the last meeting where this came up, where it came to a tie here. So I had family emergency going here. So bear with me here. This proposal here by Chief Jackson, is this something we can work with to try to get the code the correct way? I don't want just a carte blanche that allows that video. I personally would rather not send our firefighters into a building with that type of setup. I know that Columbia Carbonates is not doing that type of stuff, but we're not designing the code specifically for Columbia Carbonates. You can't do it for just one person. So when we pass this, it's going to apply to everybody. So I have a challenge of that video. But I also hear you that all the other local jurisdictions are going off of that. So I'm torn both ways on which way I'll go right now. I guess, is this something that, Mr. Goddard, that we can work through and come up with something that's best for Woodland as a whole and best for the business?
If you were to ask me to meet with them and have that discussion before the next meeting, that could be arranged. But whether or not we could come to an agreement is not a code-related question. That's more of a negotiated question.
What do they have to go through every year to amend the fire code for their current setup right now?
So,
because we're allowing them to do it right now,
so
for what they're wanting to propose the change to.
This is
So I'm torn,
only
like,
relevant when they build a new building, because the new structure has to be reviewed individually.
Yeah.
So theoretically, this would not affect their existing buildings unless they were to change the use or do an addition. So only when a building permit comes up does the building code and the fire code triggered for a new structure. So I don't know if that answers your question.
So we're allowing the use right now, how they're going about doing it. It's
There's-
just this fire code is gonna change and allow more uses on top of for what they're currently doing.
Yes, yeah, I see what you're saying. I think the concern is if there are new structures or new businesses coming to town that we are not contemplating, those are the unknowns that we can't predict.
What are the costs associated with that as far as going through that process?
So it wouldn't change the actual development code or the building code that they're reviewed up under. It would only change the cost of the building permits for the individual structure. So in other words, if it added $1 million to the construction cost, then their building permit might be more expensive because the value of that structure costs more to review and permit.
Okay. Councilmember Rounds?
Lost my train of thought there. Well, I got it. The only thing is, there's very, very few F2 and S2 businesses that can qualify for this.
Yeah.
So I don't know why we're beating our head against the wall. I think we ought to approve it.
Can I say one last thing?
Not at this time. I just want to make sure it's right. So I'm kind of leaning, this is just my opinion, and if somebody wants to second it, I'm kind of leaning giving a chance for to have that conversation with the business regarding trying to get the code the correct way and maybe delay this till next meeting. Mr. Goddard?
I would also like to point out that the updating of the new uniform building code, or IBC, IFC, etc., is going to come back to you in February for the 2021 version.
I think
And
February is too long to
So
wait.
there will be another bite at the apple at that time if you choose so.
Okay.
Is this, we already have a second on this?
I haven't even motioned it yet. I'm
We have a second?
I would like to make a motion to delay this till the next regular scheduled council meeting.
Don't we already have a first?
We already have a
second? We
motion.
already have a motion on the floor.
There's a motion to approve with a second.
Right now.
Right.
Yeah, but I can make a motion to delay this one currently, right?
No,
In
you
this.
No, you have to vote on this first.
You have to go through the vote.
No, you have to go.
Am I
Do we have a
correct, Mr.
second?
Randolph?
No, do we have a second on that?
Unless I withdraw
Well,
my
we've
motion.
we've
And then-
motioned before and made changes to the current motion that's on the floor.
I think I have to withdraw my motion for that to happen, and I don't want to withdraw my motion at this time.
I can make it easy.
Hold on, let's
So I believe you can amend a motion on the floor
Yeah.
by vote. If it doesn't pass, then the original motion stands. But if you amended the motion, then you'd have to take a vote on that amended motion following.
So can I make a motion to table this to the next meeting? In this,
That's what I'm looking up.
Just see if you get a
this,
second.
if I get a second, yeah.
But there's already a motion to vote.
Yeah, you should be able to table it. If he wants to table it, then that'll be a motion. If he gets a second, then he going.
Yeah. Wants to make sure he does it right.
Well, you're motioning to table a motion. And the motion's already on the table to take a vote. I don't think you can motion to table this.
I don't know, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
You want to bang your head.
Amendment to the motion.
After the vote, after the second.
Go with the original motion, just take the vote.
If it's a no, then you can motion to bring it back.
Based
basically what it would take is a motion to table it with a second, and then that would push it over to the next meeting.
Okay.
Say it again, I couldn't
Okay,
understand.
what we're saying is that if there's been a motion to table it, if there is a second, then we won't decide it tonight, but it'll be passed over till the next meeting.
And I thought you
Well,
had
we
to
have to
say that.
vote.
What do you do about the motion that's on the floor that's been first and seconded?
Well, I mean, because something has to be on already on the floor for a motion to table it.
Yeah.
Because you put it before the council.
Okay.
And now you're doing a motion to
Okay,
table it.
Okay.
And it's not debatable. So if there's a second to
We go to
table
vote?
it, then it'll push it over till our next meeting 2 weeks from today.
If there's a second to table it, we vote on that, and then if that passes, it goes to the next meeting. If it doesn't, then we vote on the original. I know we've tabled them before.
So what is it saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can get it.
People don't have to
By a
second me.
vote?
Yep.
Okay, yes,
So.
you can table it by a vote.
You table it by a vote. So I can make a motion to table this until the next regular council. So,
Right. and then-
can I get quiet in the lobby,
then they
please?
vote it.
He can delay, yeah. So your motion, if it passed, would delay it by one meeting. If it doesn't pass, it means you move on and take a vote.
You take a vote on the
item
already,
that's
the
on
motion that's on the
Yep.
floor.
Right.
Okay, so people don't have to second it. So I'll make a motion to table this till the next regularly scheduled meeting. I don't have the date off the top of my head.
20th.
The 20th?
20th.
Is that what it is?
Yep.
And that'll give more time for Mr. Goddard and to have further discussion to see if we can come up with something that would work for everybody.
Second.
Seconded. Motion by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Hall. Ms. Hogan, can we take a vote on that?
Non-debatable now, right? Do we have to
It's
vote?
non-debatable.
Councilmember Dowdy,
No.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Alderman,
No.
Councilmember Holland,
No.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
No.
Councilmember Burke.
No.
Motion failed to carry. So, motion on the floor is to approve.
Go ahead and get through that.
The motion right now is to approve ordinance number 1546.
Second.
Is there anybody, well, that's the current motion on the floor. I'm just clarifying where we're at right now. Is there any more comments at
Yeah,
this point?
I want to
Councilmember Hall?
understand clearly what if we approve this, does that mean, well, somebody explain to me what that means. If we say, yes, we want to approve this, does that mean that we're going to the International Building Code only?
So if you approve this, this is our batch of small code fixes. So it fixes the series of stuff that we talked about before. So for example, our code currently says that our meetings are at 100 Davidson, so that corrects this location. It corrects a few spelling errors. It changes where we post our notices. And section 14, which is the one that seems to be raising the debate, is to amend the code and the red that you see on there. So what it would say is that the 5,000 square foot limitation for sprinklers that automatically triggers sprinklers would have a caveat that says if you're doing low hazard storage or low hazard factory production, that it would not require sprinklers at the 5,000 square foot mark. In that case, we would drag out the building code and the fire code, and if the fire code says you have to have sprinklers, then you would go with whatever the fire code, the international fire code says. Just because it's 5,000 square feet doesn't automatically trigger sprinklers for, in this case, Columbia River carbonates.
Thank you. That helped clear up for me also. Any further comment? Seeing none, take the vote, Ms. Hogan.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Alderman,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
Motion carries. And I think that wraps up.
Motion to end meeting.
Second.
Motion to end the meeting by Councilmember Dowdy, second by Councilmember Rounds. All in favor,
Changing
say
it.
aye.
Names.
All opposed? Seeing none. Thank you, everybody.